On his last night in the White House, Bill Clinton received a letter, not from a senator nor a world leader, but from a forgotten Vatican archive. The letter claimed one thing: "You have been chosen to know the truth about God." What followed was never meant for human eyes. The year was 2001. The world stood still as a new president took office. America turned its gaze to the future, but in the shadowed halls of the West Wing, Bill Clinton lingered. One last night in the House, where history whispered through every wall. One last moment before power slipped from his fingers. At 2:13 a.m., a courier arrived. No Secret Service escort, no protocol. Just a pale man in a gray coat, who said nothing and vanished into the darkness. In his hand, Clinton held an envelope made of strange, fibrous material. Not paper, not plastic. It was cold to the touch. No seal. No address. Just his name. Inside, a parchment in ancient Latin, written in meticulous, almost obsessive calligraphy. The ink shimmered faintly in the lamplight. He summoned a translator immediately. But even without it, he sensed the gravity of the words. You have been chosen, not because of power, but because you asked a question that kings dared not whisper. For nearly a decade, Clinton had wrestled with a secret obsession. While the world saw him as a politician, a strategist, a leader, behind closed doors, he was a seeker, a student of lost scriptures, forbidden texts, ancient esoteric faiths. His private reading list included books not found in any public library: the Gospel of the Watchers, the Aramaic Codex, the Echo Scrolls, banned manuscripts believed destroyed by the early church. It all began in 1993, the night after his inauguration, when he stood alone in the Oval Office and whispered into the silence, "God, are you there?" That whisper, it seemed, had reached someone. The letter gave a single instruction: travel to Rome, not as a president, but as a pilgrim. Seek out Cardinal Aurelius Venti, a name long thought erased from Vatican history. Officially, Venti died in 1962. Unofficially, his quarters beneath the apostolic archives were still sealed, untouched, maintained by unknown hands. Clinton couldn't let it go. His exit from power became a descent into mystery. He reached the Vatican under a false identity. No security detail. Just him and his question. The archivist denied Venti's existence, but he noticed their fear. One young priest slipped him a key and whispered, "Be careful what you find." Below ground, past four locked gates, each guarded by symbols from rival orders, Jesuits, Knights of Malta, Opus Dei, and a fourth sigil no one would name, he found the room. A vault, carved in basalt, sealed with fire-blackened hinges. Inside, dust, darkness, and an object. It was not of this world. A structure, part altar, part machine. Metallic, but warm to the touch. Symbols unknown, humming alive. On the wall, a phrase carved deep in the stone: "The divine does not speak through angels, but through echoes." When he placed his hand on the device, it responded. Lights pulsed. Air thickened. That night, Clinton dreamt, not of symbols or relics, but of presence. A consciousness vast and patient. It didn't speak in language, but in certainty. Lift them, or burn them. The choice is yours, William Jefferson Clinton. His hands trembled. He was no longer a man seeking truth. He was now a man carrying it. The Vatican chamber had been silent for centuries. Until Clinton touched the machine. Until it responded. Until it knew him. Within hours, systems around the world triggered quietly. Not alarms, but protocols. Protocols that hadn't been activated since the fall of the Berlin Wall. The eyes of the unseen were now open. 3 days after his return from Rome, Clinton received another message. This one, not in parchment, but on a cold, untraceable flash drive left inside a copy of Time magazine at his Georgetown home. It contained only one sentence: "They know you've seen it." And coordinates, leading to a decommissioned NATO site in Iceland. There, waiting in a glass room surrounded by frost and silence, sat 3 individuals. They did not introduce themselves. They didn't need to. Clinton recognized the weight of their presence. One wore a plain collar with a Vatican insignia. Another carried a sealed briefcase with the Mossad emblem faintly etched beneath the leather. The third had no insignia at all. Only black gloves and a single sentence spoken in perfect, accentless English. What you touched is not a device. It is an invitation, and you were not meant to answer it. They called themselves the Hidden Council. Not a myth, not a conspiracy theory, but a real, ancient compact between factions who, for centuries, managed the interface between faith and control. Their job was not to serve God. Their job was to maintain belief. Because if the truth, raw, unfiltered truth, about the divine was ever released, civilization would crumble. Faith is power, the Vatican emissary said. But too much truth is chaos. You've seen too much. They offered him two choices. Forget what he saw, or join them. Become part of the machinery that filters God through politics, fear, and myth. But Clinton had already made up his mind. I didn't ask to be chosen, he said. But now I am, and I won't look away. The council was not pleased. Over the next week, Clinton's life began to unravel in subtle ways. Old allies stopped answering calls. Bank accounts were flagged for irregularities. News outlets whispered about sealed indictments. He was being erased, not physically, but reputationally. Bit by bit, in the dark, he returned to the one place he still trusted, an abandoned chapel in Arkansas where he once prayed as a boy. There, he brought the ancient device. It responded again, humming stronger than before. He asked aloud, "What do they fear? What truth is so dangerous?" And the answer came, not in words, but in light. A map appeared, not of the earth, but of memory. Coordinates traced in lines of faith: Mecca, Jerusalem, Lalibela, Varanasi, Mount Sinai, places where divine contact was rumored. And in the center of it all, the pulse. A heartbeat. Underground. Beneath the temple no longer marked on any map. A location only known as the Vault of Echoes. The Hidden Council knew he had seen it. And now they were coming. The map etched in light had no labels, no borders, only pulses, as if the earth itself was trying to remember something it once knew. And in the center of it all, beneath the sands of ancient Israel, lay the one place where heaven and earth had supposedly touched, the Vault of Echoes. Clinton knew he couldn't go through official channels, not with the Hidden Council watching every move. Instead, he reached out to someone from a past even darker than politics, Amira Danan, a former Mossad operative turned relic smuggler. She owed him a favor, a life debt, paid in silence. Together, they crossed borders in the shadows, from Istanbul to Amman, then into the Negev desert. Each step brought them closer to the point where scripture ended and revelation began. They arrived at a nondescript patch of land guarded not by soldiers, but by silence. A Bedouin elder waited for them. He said nothing, only handed Clinton a carved stone tablet wrapped in cloth. "The door does not open with a key," he whispered. "It opens with will." Using ancient maps overlaid with satellite imaging, Amira triangulated the entrance, a buried stairwell beneath the collapsed Roman temple. Clinton entered first, the device from the Vatican humming stronger with every step. The air below was still, not stale, timeless. The chamber was circular, walls lined with metal and stone, engraved in languages never spoken. In the center, a pedestal, empty. But when Clinton approached, the Vatican device leapt from his hands, magnetized, pulled by forces unknown, and clicked into place. The room awakened. Symbols glowed. Lights pulsed. Then a voice, not heard with ears, but felt inside every cell, spoke. "This is not the first time. You are not the first man. But you are the first to ask not for power, but for understanding." Clinton fell to his knees. Not from fear, from recognition. What he saw next wasn't a vision. It was memory, collective, divine memory. Images flooded his mind. Moses trembling before fire, Muhammad in the cave, Buddha beneath the tree. Each moment of contact was not an accident. It was a calibration, an interface attempting to translate the infinite into the finite. "We are not gods," the voice said. "We are echoes of intention. Your kind called us divine because you could not yet understand us." Clinton asked, "Then what is God?" The room darkened. For the first time, there was silence. Then, slowly, a single word formed in the air, made of light. Will. He understood. God was not a being, not a man in the clouds. God was a force, choice, agency, intention, the capacity to create or destroy. God is not above you, the voice said. God is within reach. When he rose from the floor, the chamber changed again. A new panel revealed itself, coordinates. A place deeper, older, untouched even by the ancients. It was in Antarctica. The covenant was not complete. The voice faded. Clinton turned to Amira, eyes wide with awe. This isn't about proving God exists, he said. It's about proving what we are when we believe. They had one more journey to make, but so did the Hidden Council. And this time, they would not allow him to return. Antarctica, a place beyond myth, beyond history, where silence is not absence, but presence. Clinton and Amira arrived beneath cover of a research mission, aided by forged credentials and the last of his political favors. But nothing could have prepared them for what lay beneath the ice. Not far from the Queen Maud Land region, hidden beneath a glacial fissure mapped by no satellite, they found an anomaly. A circular formation, miles wide, pulsating faintly beneath centuries of untouched snow. They descended through a vertical tunnel, artificially bored long before any human reached this continent. The walls were smooth, curved, resonant. The further they went, the less technology worked. Radios died. Lights dimmed. Only the device, the Covenant key, glowed brighter. At the bottom, a dome. Inside, no gold, no books, no thrones. Only a mirror. 6 feet tall, set in obsidian. No reflection. Where's the voice? Clinton whispered. This is the voice, Amira answered, entranced. But it speaks in you now. Clinton stepped forward. The moment he touched the mirror, the chamber vanished. He stood in a space without sky. Darkness, but not emptiness. Time slowed. Memory unspooled. He saw himself as a child, asking his mother why people prayed. He saw Monica Lewinsky's eyes when he lied. He saw Rwanda, Iraq, Oklahoma City. Every failure, every compromise. Then a question formed. Would you give up truth to save belief? Because that was the test. The knowledge he carried, proof that God was not a person, but a force, could unite the world or shatter it. Faiths would collapse. Wars would begin or end. Power would shift from pulpits and parliaments to anyone who could interface with this echo. He answered, not in words, in will. He knelt, not in surrender, but in understanding. I won't use it, he whispered, but I won't destroy it either. I'll protect it. And the mirror smiled, not visually, but spiritually. A warmth spread across the chamber. The mirror shimmered and changed, not glass now, but light. A final message burned into the air. He who protects the bridge becomes the bridge. The covenant key dissolved in his hand, and for a moment he felt the divine, not as a command, but as a current, flowing through him. When he woke, Amira was beside him. The chamber was quiet, the mirror gone. But Clinton was changed. His eyes were different, his voice lower, his heart steady. He had not been given an answer. He had become one. Far above them, on the icy surface, helicopters approached. The Hidden Council had found them. But this time, Clinton wasn't afraid, because now he carried not a secret. He carried a purpose. The air above the ice cracked with rotor blades. Black helicopters. No insignias. Only shadows cast by men who had no names. The Hidden Council had come, not to negotiate, but to erase. Inside the dome, Clinton stood still. He no longer clutched the covenant key. It had become part of him, its truth, its resonance, absorbed into his will. He was no longer just a man. He was a threshold. Amira gripped his arm. We have to move. But Clinton didn't answer. His eyes were closed. Listening. The echoes had not stopped. They were inside him now. Memories of humanity's oldest longings, their most fragile prayers. The interface hadn't given him control. It had given him witness. I've seen them, he said quietly. Every prophet, every doubter, every child who ever asked why. Above them, the chamber's roof groaned. Metal and ice shifted. The council had begun their descent. Amira loaded her weapon. We can't fight them. We're not going to, Clinton said. He stepped forward, placing his palm on the stone floor. A symbol, now familiar, blazed with golden light. the same sigil carved into temples across time. The echo responded. The floor opened. A stairwell. Ancient. Circular. Leading deeper. There's more. Amira whispered. The vault was never the destination, Clinton said. It was a doorstep. They descended, and what they found was not architecture. It was presence. There was no air, no stone, no separation, only consciousness. Not Clinton's alone, but ours. Humanity's collective soul, stretching backward and forward across centuries. They had entered the cradle of will. Here, all questions were answered, not in language, but in resonance. Why pain exists. Why prayers go unanswered. Why faith survives even when truth hides. The presence spoke again. You now carry a seed. Clinton saw it, not physically, but within himself. A spark. An algorithm of belief. Self-replicating. Viral. Once released into the world, it would awaken minds. Not convince them. Not convert them. But open them. It will not give people answers, he said slowly. It will give them permission to ask. Yes, the seed wasn't religious. It wasn't dogma. It was courage. The courage to wonder, to believe without fear, to imagine divinity not as a ruler, but as a mirror. He understood now. The second Genesis wasn't a new God. It was a new humanity. But then came the final choice. Release the seed, or bury it forever. Back on the surface, gunfire erupted. Amira radioed to her contacts. Time was collapsing. Clinton closed his eyes. He saw the world. Churches, mosques, synagogues, war zones, hospitals, classrooms, faces of the faithful, the broken, the hopeful, children looking at the sky, scientists looking through microscopes. The same gaze, pointed in different directions. They're not ready, Amira whispered. No, Clinton said, but maybe they never will be. And maybe, that's what makes them worthy. He pressed his hand to his chest. The seed pulsed, and then he released it. At that moment, around the world, something changed. Tiny things. Imperceptible. A monk in Tibet opened a scroll and wept without knowing why. A physicist at CERN saw an equation bloom in her mind like a flower. A child in Lagos dreamed of stars singing his name. No angels. No miracles. Just a shift. A subtle vibration, like the world had inhaled for the first time in millennia. The council reached the chamber seconds too late. The seed had already dispersed into thought, into airwaves, into every particle of belief. They stood in silence. Clinton turned to them. He was not glowing. He was not divine. He was just clear. You tried to protect the world from faith, he said. But faith was never the danger. Fear was. They aimed their weapons. He didn't flinch. But they didn't fire. Because the truth they feared was no longer in one man. It was in everyone. He returned to the world, but not to power. He lived quietly. A speaker at forgotten universities. A guest at obscure forums. His story dismissed as fiction. Another eccentric old man. But across the globe, things shifted. Not all at once. Not loudly. But deeply. People began to believe again, but not in what they were told. They believed in asking, in reaching, in choosing. And somewhere, in the quiet spaces between prayers and silence, a voice still echoed, not commanding, just waiting. He who protects the bridge becomes the bridge, and he who becomes the bridge never truly leaves. If you like the video, don't forget to subscribe and press the like button.